Hello everybody, how's it going? I'm Stealwing33 and today we're going to be playing a little bit of Hearthstone as the second video of the day here. We're going to be playing Tavern Brawl because I haven't gotten around to playing the Tavern Brawl for this week. I do know that it's basically you have a deck of 30 Raven Idols and you just have to win by using the Raven Idols. We're playing as Paladin because I like the Paladin class. I like using the hero power to get a little bit extra tempo, and it'll be nice because I can use that to my advantage in the event that if I end up with like some cards like, I don't know, that just aren't good to play right now, we can make that happen. Mostly, I don't think it really super duper matters who you play as. I know the mage has a slight advantage because you can use the Raven Idol to get it's the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and the Sorcerer's Apprentice makes all your Raven Idols free, so it's really easy to like use her to do that. I don't like going with the predominant strategy. I play every Tavern Brawl with Paladin if I can manage it, because I like the Paladin class, and it's kind of a challenge, you know, for myself. I could definitely go with like whatever the most predominant thing is. I watch enough Kriparin and Amaz to know every week what the best strategy for that week's Tavern Brawl is, but I don't know, it feels dirty. It feels dirty. So we used our first Raven Isle to get a minion because we're at the beginning of the game. I want to try to grab some minions if we can manage it. We'll start doing not this eventually, I promise. But for now, we're probably going to stick to minions for at least a couple turns. Probably like around turn 4 or turn 5, we'll probably start not doing that anymore. I do intend to actually play a minion next turn. I'm going to play the Razor Fen Hunter that we pulled with. That actually, you know, maybe we'll pull Acolyte of Pain. Yeah, we'll put Acolyte of Pain down. That way, if she wants to get rid of it, she's gonna have to give me more Raven Idols if she wants to get rid of this, which will be nice. It hurts our tempo because I didn't play any Raven Idols last turn, so we could have an entire hand of actual cards right now if we really felt like it. But you know, I'm feeling a little more justified because she decided to do that. So let's go ahead and pop up a spell. See what we get. Lay on Hands, Humility's not bad. Eye for an Eye is terrible. Let's go for Humility, and then let's do another Raven Idol for a spell. Hand of Protection's not good either. Got Eye for an Eye again. I don't want to get... Let's grab Enter the Coliseum, and we'll put it in our pocket for later. Let's grab another spell. What do we get? Another Hand of Protection. Let's grab Lay on Hands, and then we'll grab one more spell. Ooh, Consecrate's good. Holy Wrath's garbage because it'll always deal 1 damage. Let's grab Consecrate, in case we end up getting swarmed, and we'll bop her in the face. That way she has to hit my Acolyte in order to get rid of it on this turn. She probably won't. She might use something else, like a spell or something, to try to get rid of my Acolyte, but we'll see. We'll see. It's a thinking man's game, you know, Hearthstone. It's also quite soothing enough where I can actually sit down and talk about, you know, some stuff that like I like to talk about. So I got a summer job last year working for a company called idiotic. They're a summer camp that basically it's about computers. It's a computer-based summer camp, basically. So you go and you learn how to do stuff like, you know, learn to do stuff like program, make video games, stuff of that nature. I got hired as the tech coordinator, which is basically like the IT guy for the summer camp. I like it. It's a good job. It's a job that suits me pretty well, in my opinion. You know, I sort of go back and forth on whether or not I should be an IT technician or not, but we're in pretty good setup to do Consecrate if we really felt like it. We could get a lot of value out of it, wiping out 2 minions. That sucks because they're now not in a good position to do that. We can do Enter the Coliseum, something we can probably pull off. I don't want to play Argent Commander because I'll just bop him into this guy and then she'll just kill it next turn. So grab another minion, another mini onion. All of these are bad. So I think we'll take the one with the most like stat value right now. And then we'll grab this. I guess the Argent Commander wasn't bad, but Let's play the Tostingo. That's what we'll do. But yeah, I work at a summer camp for teaching kids, and I actually saw Extra Credits is a YouTube channel that make videos about game development, the video game industry as a whole, and they also do stuff about history and stuff. But today, part of the gaming channel was they were talking about the best way to educate people in game development and what the ideal way to teach somebody that's never been a game developer before how to game develop. And I actually asked myself that when I first started working at idiotic, because you would assume that the best way to learn how to make a video game is first you should probably learn some kind of programming, which you're not wrong. It's a good step forward. It's a good step forward to learn programming, but I think the most important thing to learn when thinking about game development is the fact that video games are a combination of an art and a technical career, right? So when you teach people to make video games, learning things like Unreal and Unity and engines is important only insofar as to make video games, right? Teaching an entire class on how to work in Unity is a waste of time, in my opinion, because Unity is not going to be the gold standard forever, right? A lot of programs that game developers used aren't used anymore. Look at things like Unreal 3, which was really prevalent a while back. It's just not used anymore. Nobody uses Unreal 3. Completely wasted. But then, and Unity's holding pretty strong. It's holding it down pretty good right now. But you have to think about the long term, right? Eventually Unity's not going to be the engine of choice, so to speak. And so it's more important to learn things like core skills, like learning to level design, learning to public speak, learning to think on your feet and explain ideas to people and do things like that. Oh man, Anatonis, that's fucking great. We're probably gonna lose. I'll be honest. If we lose, we'll roll into another one because these games seem to be going pretty quickly. A lot of that, I think, it's just misplays on my part. I have not been keeping it together here. Let's play the Beast. I think that's what we'll do. We'll grab a spell to try to grab. Let's grab Blessing of Kings. And we'll put a minion down. I think that'll be good. My hope is that he doesn't have a good way of dealing with the Beast other than throwing the fireball at it that I know he already got from Raven Idol. Which looks like that's going to be the case. I mean, it generates another fireball, so we can still, like, fireball my face again. Or he can fireball anything if he really felt like it. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm getting a little nervous. We're definitely not... We're not heading in a good direction right now. That's kind of useful because I can do this now. Yeah, that's cool. Go ahead and wipe out Antonitis. Yeah, so teaching game development. So, it's more important to teach skills like how to level design, how to come up with, like, good writing, how to do some of these, like, they're skills that don't sound like game skills. Like, some of them do, like level design and things like that. But, teaching people how to convey ideas is more important. Teaching people how to work in a team, work under stressful conditions, be adaptable, be smart. Let's go with Mage. We'll go with Mage, try to actually get a win here. No, let's go with Priest. Let's go with Priest. I've got a... it's a quest to play Priest, so we might as well play some Priest. And I think it's interesting to look at game development less as, like... Video game development is a team sport, right? Most of the time, from what I understand, when you work in like actual game development studios, most of them use their own version of a programming language, or they use their own engine and they use their own stuff, right? The guys who made Torchlight, they use the Guts engine, which is an engine that doesn't make any freaking sense. Like, if you've never worked in game development, it's kind of hard to explain. But imagine an engine that actively hides the way to do simple actions, right? So you want to spawn an enemy, like you want to, so the player like throws a switch and that spawns an enemy. Well, the Guts engine hides the fact that there are like item activation triggers in the game. It's a terrible engine. I don't know how that game got made in that. It's a great game. Torchlight 2 is a fantastic game, but the Guts engine is kind of difficult to work in. You know, it's something that you'd have to commit time to learning how to use. But like you'd never do that outside of working on the Torchlight 2, you know? Like outside of that development team, there's no way you would ever be exposed to that ever. And it's sort of interesting to think about games in that sort of context, right? So learning Unity and stuff is important because you can't practice making video games unless you have a means of making video games, right? But you can make really, really good video games on things like Scratch, and things like Game Maker, simple engines, stuff that isn't Unity 3D. And you can make just fine games, and that would be fine. Learning Unity is, you know, it's sort of, how to put it, not in a bad way, it's sort of a cute way to learn game development. That's what they taught us at DePaul, was most of my classes were centered around learning the basics of an engine, and then we're gonna take Shadow Form for infinite value. You basically learn the basics of an engine, and then you attempt to make a game or some part of a game in that engine. And I think the best thing to do would be to standardize the engine that you use. You know, I know I've talked to my professors about this a lot. I come from a family of people in education. My dad's side's all doctors, and my mom's side's all educators, right? And I think it's interesting that we spend... I know how to use stuff like... we learned Iridel. Iridel is an Xbox coding language that my professor, Andre, I think he invented it. I mean, he'll post it in the comments down below if you're interested. I'm sure he will correct me on that. But Iridel was one of the most frustrating game engines I've ever worked in. And that includes stuff like I'm really proficient in Unreal 4. I'm really good in Unreal 4. Learning Unreal 4's visual scripting engine was less frustrating than working in Iridel. It's my fault. It's not his fault. It's my fault because I never read any of like the technical documentation for it. I didn't take the time out to learn how to work in Iridel. It's kind of a lazy shit my freshman and sophomore year. I have since changed dramatically. In my opinion, I've changed dramatically since then because, you know, I now appreciate the appeal of a day's honest work. It's nice for me, I guess, to be able to do that. But Iridel, like, I can't think of a practical reason to know Iridel outside of taking those 2 classes with Andre. I don't know any companies that use it. I know it's used to make Xbox Live games sometimes, if I'm not mistaken. But I can't think of a practical reason to know it outside of having to have taken that class, right? So, and I'm not trying to poo-poo Andre's, like, engine. It actually is a good engine. If I was, like, significantly less of a shitlord during my freshman and sophomore year, I probably could have made some really good games out of it. But I liked Game Maker, actually. When the first time I took, like in Game Dev 1, we learned Game Maker, right? Actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, Andre's class was more like working in game development than any other class I took at DePaul. Specifically because we had to learn a weird engine that we had never been exposed to before, and then we were expected to produce stuff, right? Like we were expected to make a game of some caliber in his class, and now that I'm really thinking about it, that might have been the best way to teach game design, because yeah, it subjects you to real world conditions, right? You're plopped in a room, you're told that you have a deadline of X number of days away from you at the moment, and then you're given something strange that you've never seen before, and you're told to perform, right? So it's kind of interesting. I kind of like that now that I'm thinking about it. Good job, Professor Petheriume. Good job. I think that's great. I wish I had had more classes like that. I wish I'd had more classes at DePaul that subjected me to team-based game development. Again, more classes that Andre taught that we had to work in teams, at least for the final part of it. You had to learn a little bit of the engine and work on some minor stuff, and then the final for his classes was always get together as a team and make a game, right? Make something. I think freshman year my buddy Dan and Justin made a remake of Dark Souls, which was great. I really liked. I actually really liked that. I still have a copy of it somewhere on my computer, somewhere in the many hard drives of my computer. But I remember that. I remember it very distinctly. I remember Dan put in so many hours programming. I designed all the enemies. I got really good at enemy design during that. And then Dan wouldn't let me do level design. He programmed all the stuff, but he wouldn't let me do level design. And I remember being really mad about it. I should have fought harder. I was, again, being a lazy shit. I just designed enemies, and I found art assets was my other job. So I was the art team for that project because I couldn't program. I should have pushed a little harder to get to do something more during that whole spiel. You know, there are a couple things that I did at DePaul that it's not that I regret them, it's that I wish I had put in more time, I guess. You know, it's more along the lines of, like, I learned a lot at DePaul, but I could have learned so much more if I'd put more hours in, you know? I was content with learning the stuff that I was interested in. I wanted to go into production, and I wanted to go into team management and that kind of stuff, and I was content to sort of allow myself to only focus on that stuff instead of focusing on, you know, my fundamentals, like learning how to program and learning how to do things like that. Although, granted, they never really made us take programming classes when you were on the design track. All the programming classes were reserved for the programming kids. DePaul does a two-track thing. It did a design track and a programming track, and the design students never... I think I had one programming requirement, and I ended up being able to... I took, like, web development, of all things, in order to fulfill the credit for that. Which it feels weird now that I'm thinking about it. I should have taken something else. Although I did learn how to make websites, and I do have a better grasp on programming logic now. And although I am terrible at programming, it's probably my weakest skill. Out of all the skills that you can have as a game developer, programming's my weakest one, I think. Which, you know, it's not a bad thing. I think everybody's got, like, an area of weakness. I'm working on getting stronger about it. It's it's the thing that I wish I could do better, and so I'm trying to learn. But it's hard to teach yourself how to program, because a lot of the time I end up just sort of looking it up, and I feel like that's cheating. And my programmer, Pat, he always says that he just looks stuff up too. But it's hard for me to... Like, there are fundamental things that I just don't know. Like, I didn't know what a quaternion was until the other day. And then it was explained to me. Like, I don't know anything about C++. And I don't know anything about the logic of C++. I don't know anything about, like, the syntax or anything like that. And I wish I had taken, like, a C++ class while I was at DePaul. Before they switched the way that my major worked, it was actually a requirement. You had to take C1 and C2 before you could graduate. And, you know, I kind of wish that at least one of those had remained as a requirement at DePaul. Because I need to know at least C sharp, I think, would be something that I think would be prudent to learn. And like I said, I've been trying to teach myself, but it's hard when you don't know where to start, you know? Let's drop the I Am Murloc. We'll see what we can get here. Then we'll drop the Mogushan Warden. And then we'll draw 2 more minions, I think. We're getting to the point in the game where I think having minions is prudent. Let's grab Dos Dormu. And then we'll grab... Let's grab Harrison Jones. I think that'll be useful. Harrison Jones allows us to destroy his weapon, and then we draw cards equal to the durability of the weapon when we destroyed it. It's a really good card. Nosdormu reduces the turn timer. You only have 15 seconds to do it, but there's a bug with it where if you do like additional effects while Nosdormu's active, it causes all kinds of shenanigans. Like the other person's turn is like reduced by a tremendous amount. That's kind of some tricky stuff, some silly stuff that happens. But yeah, I don't know. The idea of trying to teach people game development, I like do it now. Like I've been trying to do it at ID Tech, and I apparently do a pretty good job. And I don't want to sound like I'm tooting my own horn. Like I'm not. How to put this without sounding like a complete asshole? I have been told by the people at ID and the people that I have taught that I did a very good job teaching the courses that I was assigned. You know, all right, well played. And I think it's interesting to try to teach game development to people who have never done it, because it's an odd skill to have, because there's a lot of ways to contribute to a development of a game. And I think it's kind of cool. Let's open this pack. We'll see what's inside. I have most of the classic cards already, so we're not going to probably see anything like super cool here. We got Kona Cold, Mana Addict, Noble Sacrifice, Explosive Trap, and Lightning Bolt. All cards that I already have 2 of, but it's still kind of fun to do the pack opening. If we'd gotten like a legendary or something, I'd have been really excited. I'm saving until after the new set comes out, because sometimes they change the price on cards, and then you can disenchant them for a lot, and so it's always prudent to kind of hold on to your cards, especially if there are any that got nerfed. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you guys, enjoyed my small rant about game development. If you have any questions, you have any comments, you want to talk to me about game development, go ahead and leave the comments down below. I'm always interested in talking about it, and always kind of down to discuss the thing that I've decided to dedicate my life to. Unless this whole YouTube thing takes off, then, I'll be doing this. I've always been an entertainer at heart. I like game development. I like making games, and I have a deep, hearty passion for it. But at the end of the day, I've always been an entertainer. This is really the thing that speaks to my soul, is talking for long amounts of hours. Anybody who's ever seen me give a presentation knows that once I'm upstage, like, this is where I feel at home, talking and being a presenter, being up in front of people, being in the spotlight, and like not center of attention. I don't like being the center of attention, but I do enjoy being on stage. I enjoy performing. It speaks to me, So with that, we're gonna call it quits for this episode. So like I said, thank you all so much for watching. Leave any comments you got down below, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.